Hi, it's Michael Kerr here, presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, I interview a fellow small business owner or an expert, and they share their stories, their lived experiences, the wins and the losses, and their best advice to help you, the listener, get the most you can from your own business. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. And thanks also to Kerr Capital, supporters of the show. Welcome into another edition of Small Business Banter community podcast, community radio and podcast. Really happy to have in Michael Duregon today. Michael's the founder of Bring Back Australia. So firstly, great to have you and welcome, Michael.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here.
We're going to just real shortly hand over to you so you can tell us a little bit about the reason you've started Bring Back Australia. To set the tone, Bring Back Australia is really helping current Australian consumers better understand what really is Australian made and Australian owned. But Michael, so we'll get to that. Your background is interesting and very diverse. You trained as a fitter and turner. You worked in a family hardware business. You ran a couple of businesses. So you bring to what you do now a lot of on the ground experience. So can you just give us a couple of minutes on where you've been and why you're here?
I started many years ago. I think my mum sent me to work with my dad when I was about 9 because I was a handful, and so I spent the first couple of years learning to drive a forklift in the hardware store and growing up in there.
At a pretty young age, eh?
Yeah, OH&S would get me nowadays, but
they sure would.
I did that and worked weekends and school holidays, and even when I did my apprenticeship in Port Augusta, I worked. Dad wouldn't let me not work on weekends, and I had to leave the town to get away from working for him. And I came down to Adelaide, worked for Mitsubishi in their press shop, fixing all the presses that stamped out cars, and then for Bridgestone doing that. That was the end of my fitter and turner days. I got sick of getting dirty and thought there's more to life than that. So I went back to the family business and ran half the shop for a while, and then went into the IT side of things, doing all our stock control and learning how to, what products to stock and range and all of that. So that sort of came in handy with what I'm doing now. I did that for a while and then came down to Adelaide after doing a holiday for a year. Then did an IT course, went into IT, did software development, and after a number of years I was stuck sort of doing stuff I didn't like, and they ended up that I left that and went and bought a sign franchise, ran that for that, sold that, then opened my own sign installation business. So did signage for 15 years and wanted to get into apps, and wasn't, if I concentrated on the apps, the business went, and if I concentrated on the business, the apps didn't work. So I made the decision to get out of the sign game and sort of started apps and did a couple of others that I tried and ended up putting on hold because we came into this COVID period of life, and we all had to sit home on the couch and do all of that. And I was, doing what everybody else was doing, getting frustrated by it. But I got to watching, there was a lot of social media and a lot of people, posting stuff on social media saying how they were supporting Australia. And from my background working with brands and all of that, I know what's Australian, real Australian, like what we own and what's Australian made. But run by conglomerates, and watching people's social media saying, "Oh, I'm supporting Australia," and I'm thinking, "You're not really. You're supporting all these foreign companies."
It might be Australian made, but maybe not Australian owned. Which
so
is,
I thought, So I thought, well, people, and I got a bit frustrated by it. I thought, people just don't know. We've lost that much now. People don't know what's Australian and what's technically Australian, but really, really foreign. And thought I could, I sort of got frustrated, and after a while, I thought I can do something about this. I've done some other stuff, and I know how to, I know what I did years ago, and now I know there's a lot more technology, and I'm a bit smarter as well. So,
and plus you bring family business, you bring running your own business, you bring training in a trade, learning and educating yourself around IT. So you bring it's a great mix of experience to get to where you are today, and I think that's fundamentally you're on a bit of a mission, and it is to make transparent that how you. I think I know your tagline is how you shop matters, and you're doing through this what we'll talk about now. Bring Back Australia, the app. You're making it transparent and easier for consumers to make more informed choices.
Yeah, we've got together and we've put together the app. The app's a small part of what we're doing, but it's the part the consumer will touch and see. It'll be the most visible part of the. It's really a movement we want to start rather than a business. We want people to get behind, embrace Australian owned, and understand the importance of Australian owned. If we don't own anything, at the end of the day, we're going to be renting everything off the rest of the world because we just we've let that much go offshore, and we've got to put the brakes on and try and stop it at least, or slow it down, then try and stop it, then try and reverse it. Because
you strongly connect with this sense that that things are disappearing in terms of ownership, and that's going to cause what sort of problems do you see that causing 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years?
Well, I think we've lost our identity a little bit. The things we grew up with, and there's no connection. We just shrug our shoulders now when another thing goes offshore. We're that used to it. We're blasé about it. We've got to start, being a bit more parochial. We've got to, stand up for ourselves. And I think not owning things, we don't want to rent everything. That's the closest analogy you can get to it. At the end of the day, we've got to start having something to call our own, and we're losing that. We don't have much, and that goes through our whole psyche. We don't invent. We invent things still, but we don't punt on ourselves and say we can do this. We don't do anything now without looking for a foreign investor. We will come up with the ideas, and we've got to get someone else to pay for it, or someone else, or if we do get a good idea, we'll sell it out as quick as we can, take a few bucks, and go, well, that was good.
It's a bit of a concern, isn't it, that, things have been so good for so long that, maybe that's part of it, that these great opportunities that might have stood us in really good ground now, in a good place now. Talk about, manufacturing sovereignty, having the ability to produce things through the COVID crisis we were found wanting. So, with everything going so swimmingly, driven by commodities and house prices, we've probably moved away from some of that more real, manufacturing and, doing stuff here that could have, been maybe a bit more of a longer term game. But it's we've been caught short.
Yeah, we've got a very short term view of most things. And that comes from our so-called leaders. They don't have a long game. We see that every year. I mean, we're seeing it now with the election coming up. It's a whole lot of promises, and there's nothing that's really going to make us, improve us over the long term.
Yeah,
that's disappointing. That we're just looking for the short-term fix all the time. The short term.
Yeah. Internationally manufactured Band-Aids. as
Yeah,
to
pretty much.
All right. So, can you tell us about Bring Back Australia and what your aim, what it is? I know there's a lot more to it, but what it's going to be in the short term, and why you, Michael Duregon, think this is important.
Well, people go shopping. We all want to support Australian. It's frustrating. We only concentrate on Australian made. We keep getting pushed. In 1986, Bob Hawke stood up and announced that the Australian made campaign. So obviously there was an issue back there. For them to be looking to try and fix that then, but that's been our one and only concentration for 36 years. We've just been pushed. Australian made, Australian made, Australian made. Now that's important, but at the end of the day, we've seen so many things get offshored. All our brands, all of that have gone. The majority of them, the major ones, are all owned by big multinationals. And we can get into the tax transparency code later and see how much money goes offshore, and how much doesn't go where it should go here. But that's, I don't know if that's a discussion for today. I'm happy to talk about it because it's a big elephant in the room that we don't address. And
we don't have the tax base that we probably should have.
Well, it's getting worse. We've got a seller of fizzy water. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name, but
no,
recently
don't say the name, but describe it.
Very popular drink in a red can that most people don't know that was sold off, and where we had a good Australian company, which had licenses for this product all through Asia and New Zealand and a few other places, and paid $200 to $300 million a year in tax. Has been, it was reported in the paper that they merged with a company based in England, but they're not on the stock exchange anymore. And if they merge, they would be. They've been bought up by, a big conglomerate out of Europe, and it'll remain to see over the next couple of years what that tax take that goes into our coffers to pay for schools, roads, and all the health and all the things we want. And our foreign review board says, "That's all right, you can have that." It's terrible. What happens.
Michael West is an investigative journalist based out of Sydney, and I think we chatted briefly about this offline. He publishes this great report each year about non-tax-paying entities in Australia and how much they turn over and how little they pay in tax. So it's something that we might put in the notes. But so it's part of what you're saying is if we can get products, services manufactured here, owned by Australian companies who are resident here, you see that leading directly to a more consistent, transparent tax basis.
Yeah, well, we've got, anybody that's based here doesn't have mechanisms that are available to them if they're not based here as, their tax point. And that's the bone of contention. You look at, simple figures, I think 2019, 2020 tax year, the tax transparency code listed 2019 companies who had combined turnover of $2.23 trillion, and the tax take on that $2.23 trillion was just over 50 billion. So it's like chicken feed. There's companies I can name that
I
are
don't know what the percentage there would be. It's a lot of zeros, but it's quite low as a percentage.
Yeah. There's companies that popular companies that people are going shopping and buying things, who are paying 20 cents company tax in every $100 they bring in the front door. And you don't have to be too good at maths to work out there's something wrong with that.
And so you're on this mission, to make it easier for consumers to identify what is Australian owned, and with those flow on effects. So is that, in terms of what the consumer wants. I think there's somewhere you talked about, there's a surge in interest in seeing that happen. Have you accessed some research or have you done some?
Yeah, there's a lot of studies that have been done, and especially over the last couple of years, it's got even stronger. That generally, with most of the studies, there's over 90% of people are wanting to support Australian companies and buy Australian brands, but that's a hard thing to do.
Why is it hard? Just in a practical sense?
Well, you're sitting there, you're going shopping, packaging. If you want to buy something, these companies are aware that people are looking for that, and it's not easy to read the packaging on some items. I'm getting a bit older now, and my eyes aren't that good, but I don't want to go shopping and spend searching in Google to find out what company owns a product or anything like that. So to make it easy, what we've done is we've developed an app that you just scan the barcode. Within a second, the information will pop up on the screen. We'll, give you a photo if it's available of the product, so you've scanned what it is. We'll give you the barcode, the brand, so you can look and go, right, yeah, that's what I scanned. We'll tell you how much Australian content is in the product. We'll tell you where the product's made, but more importantly, we'll tell you the country of ownership. So, and that the barcode is registered, can be registered here in, to have an Australian barcode, and the perception that any barcode starting with 93 means it's Australian, and that's not the case. That's a misnomer that everybody sort of started a long time ago. That just means the barcode's registered through the GS1 office here in Australia. Can be owned by China, can be owned by Singapore. So the barcode will be registered to a multinationals company, and they'll have their office in Sydney and register the barcode there. We go one behind that. Behind the scenes, we link all the prefixes, they're called, to parent companies. So where we've got the company that registered the barcode, we go behind the scenes and say, right, well, that's actually owned by this,
So there's a bit of tech there to make it, because labels are small. Labels can be designed in a way to make them perhaps influence your thinking. Wouldn't be so you're just saying that there's a bit of tech that, aside from the numbers, a consumer is going to be more easily able to say that is owned by a foreign multinational company, or that is owned by an Australian-owned company, an Australian-based.
Pretty much all within a second. And we go one further from there, where a product's scanned. Behind the scenes, we've got a fairly smart database and getting better all the time. We've still got a little bit of work to do on it, but if you scan a cow's milk, we'll know that you're looking for milk, and we'll know where you're scanning. We do ask for people to put the location on. So when you scan a milk, if you're scanning a full cream milk in southeast Queensland, the bottom of the screen will tell you, if it's a foreign-owned milk. We'll give you the brands that you should be looking for that are actually, Australian-owned.
So it'll even pop up, when it's in production, it'll pop up suggestions of another product. So yeah,
and that will be localised to where you are. So it's no good being in Queensland and being told to buy Fleurieu Peninsula milk, which is only available out in Adelaide.
Yeah,
so
okay.
There's a whole lot of work we've got to do. But that's all happening at the moment behind the scenes and coming together.
So you've tipped yourself 100% into this venture.
Yeah,
I'm interested for you. You've had various businesses, family, jobs, and now you've just gone 100% into. It's a startup, yeah, or a new business.
It is. It's a what do they call it? A bootstrap, self-funded startup. So I've been doing this since probably February 2020. So we're just ticking over 2 years of doing nothing. So that's a story in itself.
It's a great story when you've clearly you had that moment or a series of moments where you said, I got to, I can see some issues and I want to do something about it, and admire anyone that actually does it. So where are you at now with the business? What stage are you at? What are some of the next steps with buyback?
Bring back, yeah,
Bring back Australia.
Bring back. We've had that subtle change. We were heading along. We actually had another name, which was very close to this one. And on the off chance, we had a meeting with someone with a lot more marketing experience than us and a long history of working with many big brands and big companies who had a look at what we were doing and liked the idea, but said our name was wrong and our colours were wrong. So we've changed from we've changed from Buyback Australia, which although probably had the same intention, but the Bring Back Australia is probably more summarises what we want to do overall.
Yeah.
And our colours that we chose, were too closely aligned with another platform that is more concentrated on the made side of things, where ours is on the own side of things. So we've gone with a bit more modern blue and white to look good, a lot more modern and ready to go.
So, and look, by the way, on today's edition of Small Business Banter, I'm chatting with Michael Duregon from Bring Back Australia. Sorry, Michael, I just wanted to, we've gotten into the flow there, and I wanted to let people know who we're talking with. So you were you've kind of gone with contemporary branding, and you've gone through all of that, design and so where to in the short term, where to in the long term for the business?
For the short term, we want to get to our app's not launched yet. We've got an MVP almost ready to launch. We've got it on pre-order
which is
at the moment.
Minimum viable product, yeah, for like
that's
beta.
Correct.
Yep.
A little bit more than the minimum. We've got a few features in there, but overall, it's looking good. We've got that sorted. We've got pre-orders happening at the moment. We're trying to get to the point that we're happy to release the app to some people, and anybody who's on the pre-order will get it. We won't do an official launch till we've probably had a month or 6 weeks with just the people that have pre-ordered it, just to test all our systems and get some feedback, and then we'll be looking for a launch, either probably before that launch or just after. We want to do a equity crowdfunding using Virtual to bring some funds in and help us take what we've done and launch a bigger platform.
Yeah.
And in between now and then, we're doing a small raise of around 250 we'd like, which will help us prepare for that. So, we're looking for people who like what we do and understand the scope and the importance of what we're doing to,
Yeah, look, I do want to come right back to that, the importance of it, but so it's we're going to, in the show notes, we'll include a link to the website. So if somebody was interested in downloading or registering to download the version of the app that comes up, are you welcoming more of that?
Yeah, there's a link. There's a link on the website.
Okay, all right. So
which says, just click the download app button, and it'll take you to pick whichever store whether it's Apple or Google.
Yeah, okay.
And click on that, and there's a pre-register there, which will, as soon as we put the app up on there, it'll be available.
All right, that'll go up on the notes after. To come back to the importance of what you're doing, do you want to? It's clearly something that you are incredibly driven to deliver on. From a consumer's, like a family member going out to shop, from a local Australian business point of view, there's two perspectives there. What's in it for them, and why is it so important that they embrace what you're talking about?
Well, I think for the suppliers and even the retailers, we want to get people looking for Australian-owned products, the importance of that is fairly straightforward. We want companies who are here, support here, and I mean really support here, not do the token stuff of the multinationals.
So we're talking about employing people, training people, supporting local communities that they're involved in,
and more importantly, paying what they should be paying. I mean, my view is that when you go shopping, if you buy something, you enter a contract subliminally with that supplier of that product, that a portion of what you've paid goes back to the community to pay for what we should be paying for, for our schools, our roads and that. And this is not me just saying, these companies aren't doing it. If you go to the Tax Transparency Code and you see only $50 billion ending up to do that out of $2.2 trillion, there's something going wrong somewhere. There's money going offshore. There's companies, I think there's over 1,000 that have got a turnover of, in excess of $500 million that don't pay a cent of tax. This is wrong. These are, predominantly.
It's one of those things. If you and I do listen to quite a few podcasts, talking about this stuff. It's a Tax Justice Network from the UK, track multinationals and even locally, the message, is often, we are doing everything within the guidelines, the tax guidelines, and but it's still, it just, for me and for you, it doesn't mean for everybody else. It still doesn't ring true and sit right. So. Anyway, we're not going to, neither of us are tax experts, but I think the message is, if we, or your message, is that, for if it made easier for them to say, look, there's a couple of products. One of them is owned by a multinational. One of them is owned by a local owned, presumably local manufactured business, and their purchasing decision is going to have a bit more impact on the local economy, and we can kind of get caught up in all sorts of things. But I like that simple kind of argument, and assuming the economics are okay, because things are pretty tight at the moment, and I think we'll get tighter, and so discretionary spending and where you put your dollars, is going to be a bit more challenging, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument all the time that Australian products are more expensive, but generally the one issue that Australians have is we always try and make a premium product. So, people always say, milk, it's like I drink a milk here in Adelaide, and I happily pay, I think it's about $5.50 for a 2-litre bottle. And I'll happily pay it because I was talking to the owner of the company, and it wasn't a good visual that I gave him, but I said one of the simple pleasures I have is that I live alone and I can come down, get up in the morning, come down. It's not a good picture, but in my underpants, open the fridge, crack the top of a 2-litre bottle and drink the 2 inches of cream off the top.
And they didn't offer to use that in their marketing.
Well, I can't see why not. I can't see, but that's So when you're talking the price of milk and saying that's always the one people come up with. You're not talking about the same product. The watery stuff you get at $2.30 or $2.40 from the big players, the big supermarkets is some white coloured water. It's not a like for like product. So we don't compare apples for apples when we look at Australian products. You've got to look at that.
Yeah, you do, and then I think increasingly though there are going to be even more trade-offs between how as a consumer I spend my money, but that if we can get more product manufactured here by companies owned here, I think we both strongly agree it's just going to be better all around, and there might be some more of a tax revenue base to fund important things, and not we did get found out during the last couple of years of the depth of some of our manufacturing capability. I mean, It's
We're still
it's
going through
coming
it.
back in. There is a very real sense, and it's been happening for a while. It's probably not as I liked what you talked about, even some of the less glamorous stuff. There's been, you shorten the supply chain, you get, and you can have stuff here manufactured, even if it's not the absolute primo product. There's some money in some of those businesses. So,
yeah, well, our app's also going to end up with, we're putting a few other things in there as well. So it's not only the Australian owned, where we have access to packaging data. So for those people who are concerned about sustainability and, you want to know the product you're buying, is it got good packaging? There's some other stuff coming
as in
online.
like properly recyclable or biodegradable or...
Yeah, so
right.
That information, again, we rely on the suppliers to upload that to... We get the data from the official barcoding platform, the GS1, here in Australia, who have a great platform, a lot better than the American. We import data from America. We get all the company names from America. We've got a great interface into all these platforms. And we'll probably end up pushing the Americans to give us some more of that data as well. So, that's another one of the things where, one of my things I'm also doing is apart from buying Australian and supporting what we're doing, I also want to try and demonstrate what companies should do. So we're actually, our database is actually international. We have, I think we're up to about 800,000 products, Australian products that are from here. Yeah. We've got 31 million products out of America, and America have got a new database, which is a central repository to the world. That's got 35 plus countries putting their data onto that, and we've got that coming in. So that's another, probably 110 million products coming in, and we're making this international. We're capable of probably turning on Buy Back America, or Bring Back America, and Bring Back Canada, and bring back, so we could
so you're building
our technology.
A scalable business model that,
we want to go overseas and bring their money back here. That's what we should be doing.
Well, you do get a sense that a lot of consumers in the countries in America, in England, and other Western economies, and I know them a little bit better than I do some of the other economies, but there's a sense of bringing back being manufacturing sovereignty, of being proud of products made in the country, and so it's I don't think it's isolated here.
No, Australia's not the only one with this problem. I've got friends I talk to in the US, and they've got their meat industries are getting picked off by. We saw that the other day. There's a company who have bought recently some fishing businesses from down in Tasmania who don't have a good name, but we just keep letting these companies come in, and
with very big boats.
Oh, no, these aren't boats. These are farmed salmon.
Down yes, yeah.
If you watched, I think it was on. There was a story on Four Corners the other night, I think it was, and it's scary what our government lets in here. From there's no checks and balances done on these companies. It's just come on in. Yeah, you got a checkbook. Welcome.
Yeah. I don't know what the process is, but whatever, So what you're about is kind of starting at the other end of the cycle and saying, when you buy something, when the app's up and running, be a bit more. You be a bit more informed as to. So it's that you're moving access to and moving a lot of data.
A lot of data. There's and it's going to grow. We'll probably end up with. We're aiming to have the biggest and best product database in the world. So I've got probably a little bit of ADHD in me, or what is it? Anal retentive tendencies.
So you want to do things properly.
And like I said, so we're aiming to, we want to top over 200 million products in our database. We want to, it doesn't matter where, and that's important too, because products come in from everywhere now. People are importing direct, bypassing distributors and just bringing them in themselves. So we can end up with products on the shelf from anywhere. So we want to have them all sorted.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, you scan it, we know what it is,
Yep.
and we'll tell you, is there an Australian-owned equivalent?
Do you see do you see green shoots, as they say, of companies, in your local area where or that you're aware of that are starting to get on board and realise the opportunities that might be there for locally produced stuff? And you talked about Fluoro Peninsula Milk, I think it was, but I mean,
Yeah, well, they're a great example of what you can do. I mean, they started, I think, their 15th birthday. They've been advertising that lately. That was a company who were getting a good deal from, the bigger milk companies and years ago, and decided to go out on their own. And they now probably one of the biggest milk distributors in
is that
South
a
Australia.
cooperative? Is that a
Not sure of the exact structure.
Yeah,
It's a
anyway.
group of farmers who got together.
Yeah.
It's not like a Norco or something like that.
Yeah,
With an
no, it
official,
sounds like a cooperative kind of structure, but
yeah. So
yeah, no, there's there was some well talked about examples through COVID of
coffee machines decide to turn off. Sorry.
You got to add some of that Fluoro Peninsula Milk. But companies adapting to making hand sanitizer. I mean, everyone heard about it over and over again.
Yeah.
But they're the sort of things that entrepreneurs see.
Well, I think at the moment one of the biggest problems is people aren't prepared to do it. There's not, they can't see a competitive advantage of being locally owned and investing their money when they're competing against, people who've got carte blanche to do whatever they like, pretty much. So I think the structure of how Australia's set up, I go testing our app and I go through the supermarket. The amount of stuff that New Zealand own, people are going to get shocked when they download our app and go scanning and see how much our poor cousin over the ditch owns. Like I said, I grew up in the hardware industry. They run our hardware industry. Most of the stuff that's in your local Mitre 10 store, your Bunnings, it's all New Zealand owned. We don't own it anymore. It's all gone.
So is there clever people, a lot of clever businesses, in tech and agriculture, the honey industry, to name another.
Well, we've got to look. We've got to start questioning the structure we've got, and why is it disadvantageous, or why aren't people willing to set up or do a business in Australia? And if you do, they're aiming to sell it off to a foreign company because they'll pay over the odds for it. And you got to try and work out why, and you've got to try and fix that problem.
Well, it goes pretty deep. I deal in my day-to-day business. I deal with a lot of small business owners, and typically at the point where they're thinking about selling because of retiring normally, but sometimes to go and have a break and do something else. But I really am concerned with who's coming through as the next generation of small business owner. Not want to be a gazillionaire, which is all fine if that's what you want to do. But there seems to be a big gap between the safe route to a nice paid job at one end of the spectrum, which is fine. Also, being a billionaire tech entrepreneur, and then just running and making a living and doing a good job of managing a small business that serves a market and serves it well. I don't know where a lot of these businesses that are already in existence, often pretty unglamorous, but solid, could certainly do with some energy, but I'm not sure who's going to buy them. And so I think, to your point, there's if you go right back into school age children, what are their career paths, and what are what's the education around ownership of a business as an option. Anyway, that's
I don't ever recall getting taught that at school. I think it's something that's you've either got to have parents or aspire and see a role model that you want to aspire to take that path.
Yeah. So I mean, the role model. So I mean, I've worked with a lot of outgoing owners who have said, I wouldn't want my kids to do that. I'd much rather them, to go and do a university degree and become a whatever. And so, but the role model things. Quietly, there's a lot of great businesses out there. They just tick away. They could be bigger. They could be different and better. Could grow faster. But what's important, I think, there is that there are these owners who know what they're after out of their business. And I think that's incredibly powerful to be able to say, sure, if a consultant came in here, there's 100 things I could do to, change it, make it more profitable. But I think being in tune with what you want out of the business is it's a pretty kind of sound basis on which to apply some of those, or to filter some of the decisions you're going to make about whether you do or don't want to, grow faster or.
I think that's the case in a lot of things. If you're doing it to please someone else, you're not enjoying it.
Yeah, fair. So it's good opportunity to talk about you and your business. So what is a week, or let's maybe make it a bit more granular. What's a day like at the moment? Trying to get a business with this sort of scope and agenda up. What are the challenges you have? What's a day look like?
Well, at the moment, one of my biggest challenges is getting heard or known about, because, like I said, for 2 years I've probably been sitting in an office or home, looking at a computer screen, sorting out data, trying to work out structures of how to get this app to work and all the things we want to do off of that, and haven't really gone out too far pushing what I'm doing. So this week, I've got an interesting week this week. I've got today and tomorrow, or had today in the office and tomorrow in the office. Wednesday, I'm off to Sydney. I'm doing a Meet the Press masterclass to package up myself to let the media know what I'm doing.
Yep.
So on Thursday and Friday, that's a 2-day course. I think day one, from what I understand, is learning what the media want, how to frame my story so they understand what it is, and to see if I can capture the attention of that. So my next month or two, apart from trying to get some funding in and get our app launched, our preparations for our equity crowdfunding up and running, and all of that, is to get our name known and get people to understand who we are, what we're about, and what we're going to do. So that's it sounds just looking at this week, it's an interesting week.
Yeah. So you've been we're all able to move around some more now and get back to some of those face-to-face things, call it business development, call it networking. But are you you've been doing a lot of that grunt work yourself, but you also sound to me like someone who's pretty passionate about what they're, so with the right guidance would be a great advocate and a great salesperson for what you're trying to build and achieve here.
It's a bit of fun. The next, I think I'm in the part where I want to see the rubber hit the road, get this app launched, get people to recognise what we're doing, get it all up and running. It's always fun. You sort of go up and down with what you're doing. You sort of get all keen, and then you get kicked in the guts a few times. The money gets a bit tight. You've got to find some more money to keep the dream going. It's an endless story. But like I said, we're very close at the moment. We've got everything just about ready to go. We've got to find some people to believe in us and put some dollars in, understand the significance of what we're doing, but also most of these things, if people do things out of just something you want to do, we've got a good business behind this. We're going to introduce a nationwide loyalty program to back this up. It's not just the app, it's also teaching you, and that's to include not only your suppliers, it'll be like a coalition-based loyalty platform which suppliers and retailers can both use to encourage people to seek out Australian-owned products and the like, but also for service businesses. So we'll include, we want to teach people to look for our logo on the front of the door, and if you go in there, there'll be benefits and that you'll get for some rewards for shopping and supporting locally owned business.
Yeah, Look, power to you. But I wanted just to go back a little bit, because small business banter is all about encouraging people into business, or getting more from their business, not necessarily more profit. A bit more fulfillment, or viable or meaningful outcomes of having a business. So you're on this climbing a couple of mountains, to build the thing and then to sell the thing. So you're going through process of looking to raise some money. What at the structure of the business to support you? I think you've got an advisory board, or you've got a team of.
Yeah, I've got a board. I've got 4 people on my board from a couple of different backgrounds. I've got Colin Shearing, who was used to be the CEO of the Independent Retailers Association, so he's got a good feel for the retail side of things.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of business advisors that I've previously used that have been good to me, giving me good advice and keep me on track.
Yeah.
And I've got Wayne Irvine, who owns a service business here in Adelaide, fairly big concern, and he's also invests in a few startups. So got him on board to give us some guidance, and they've been invaluable. They're sort of guided me to do the smaller raise and get myself sorted out as far as getting everything ready to go, rather than go for the big crowdfunding and the pressure straight away of doing that. So
and not feeling like you're on your own either. I mean, it can be an incredibly lonely.
Yeah.
Starting a business or running a business doesn't really matter. So you need that. You need some trusted people around you to support. Feel like you're supported.
Especially when you're a pre-revenue startup, it can be very lonely, and you look at your bank account occasionally and things like that, and it sort of does get a bit down on you. You're wondering, hang on, what am I doing this for? And when can I get it started? So that's also things that help to talk through with the board and get some guidance and and all of that. So you could do worse than have some people around you that understand what you're going through and help you with it.
Yeah, look, we all need that, and sometimes got to ask for it. Doesn't really just present itself easily. So you've set up a structure that is to support and guide, and probably guide you through some areas of the notwithstanding all your pretty diverse business ownership experience, you're going to go going through a process of raising money is not something everyone's gone through, and there are some it's another job on top of another job on top of another job.
Yeah, I've lost count of what jobs I'm doing at the moment. I've got that many I'm juggling, and it's hard. You sort of, I don't know if I've ever completed anything. You sort of feel like you're 80% through it, and something else is yelling at you that it needs attention, and you're trying to keep everything going at once. I've got a couple of staff at the moment that are helping out, but I'd like to have a couple more for now, and with the crowdfunding, when we get that done, then that'll be a lot more, and that's when everything will come to life as we want, as I want it to. Yeah,
it feels to me like the timing's good. There is a mood for all sorts of good reasons. Not the least of which is just to have local businesses more successful, employing people, training people, paying their fair share of their taxes, for services here. So, as we said way back at the beginning, neither of us are tax experts, but that feels pretty much like a good plan. And we need to, I think in your case, you're trying to start with making it easier for consumers to help by.
When you talk to people, one of the common things you hear all the time is, the government should do something about it. And, I don't know about you, but I can't recall the last time the government did something, and that's why our tagline of how you shop matters, that's implicit in that, because unless we start seeking out the products and asking retailers to stock Australian-owned products, we're not going to get it. The government's not going to fix this unless we become a squeaky wheel and say, this is what we want. We want it, want the government to support it. It's not going to happen. It's just going to continue down where it is.
Yeah, no, it's going to be like it's in this case, it's going to be you presenting, get some funding, and then let hopefully get some consumers to start really engaging a bit more, leading to the good outcomes we've spoken about. So we're coming up nearly to the end of our time, Michael. I wanted to just do a couple of things. Thank you for coming in. I'm sure those that are listening also, will wish you the best on. It's a big undertaking, but an important one. So, power to you for that. If people wanted to reach out to you, what can you just give us the website or the social media handles, and then we can leave it with them to find you.
Yeah, the website's pretty easy. It's bringbackaustralia.app, APP. The social media is we have a Facebook page under Bring Back Australia. We've got a Facebook group which we've started, which is called Australian Owned is Better. There's a couple of other. There's LinkedIn, again, Bring Back Australia on LinkedIn. So there's enough. There's enough places to find us.
Yeah, we'll put that up on the show notes when it goes on the radio and onto the podcast. So, Michael Duregon from Bring Back Australia, thank you very much for your time. As I said, go well.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
So that's all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. I continue to be inspired, bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. If you want to listen to any past episode, jump onto your podcast platform of choice and search Small Business Banter. There you will find a diverse and fascinating collection of small business owners and experts openly discussing and sharing their experiences. For any of the links, resources, or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact me, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And it would be great to have you tune in the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.